Hello, I'm Jack Emberley along the Fraser. It's May 19th. I'm on the dike coming off Harris Road. Coming off Harris Road down towards the Pitt River, which is in that direction. Looking at these sunken vessels and a houseboat that many of which have been here for about 5 or 6 years without any government agency doing anything to remove them or to make the owners remove them at their own expense. The last time I was here, that houseboat was on that barge right there, that partition there, and it has since toppled over into the water. I have heard rumors that the city of Pitt Meadows is meeting with the Department of Transport, provincial agency that may be responsible for removing these vessels or addressing the problem. They're expected a little later on today. We thought we'd come down and see what they're doing and see if we can get an update. I've entered files, complaints on these vessels in here and another on Blaney Creek not far from here over the last 6 years without any government action. So this could be a very promising change of events. We're hoping it is. We shall see. My name's Jack Anderson.
Hello.
You're with the Department of Transport?
Yes. Yeah, Department. Transport Canada.
Okay, so you're here to inspect these boats that are abandoned boats here today?
We're here to conduct an inspection.
Yeah, I'm here
Conduct an
just
inspection.
look at the structure that's here. And,
Yeah, right, okay. So were you contacted by, I have a file on this boat with Coast Guard.
Okay.
Yeah, so you were invited here by Pitt Meadows City to come and do the inspection, or how did this happen? Was it
So
a citizen?
this before we kind of talk, I do see the camera.
Yeah.
My name is Ryan. Nice to meet you.
Ryan, what's your last name?
Gravel.
Gravel. I wonder if we've actually talked before.
Okay. And who are you?
I'm Jack Emberley.
Jack
I am a former columnist with the Meadows.
Okay. Okay. So
And a kayaker.
Yep.
So I have reported abandoned vessels for 6 years.
okay. Okay.
So I've asked for updates
Yep.
with the officers in charge.
Yep. Yep.
And haven't received any yet until now. So I just thought I'd come and see
Okay.
what's going on because it
Yeah.
looks like something positive is happening.
Yeah, no
What's
worries.
happening?
No worries.
Right.
No worries. Well, okay, so this one, is this a media? So if it's official media, you're going to have to direct you to
I'm not in the
like,
media.
yeah,
I'm
our
a
kind of our
private
media
citizen,
relations.
a private
But
citizen.
I can talk in general, right,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
about the processes and about all
Okay,
of
that
that
would be
kind of
good
stuff, right?
because the general public really does not get much information.
For sure. And we're actually going to be kind of working on that. But basically, so you said you called Coast Guard, right?
I have a
you
file
have a
number
file
with the
number
Coast
from
Guard.
Coast Guard.
Yeah,
So Transport Canada and Coast Guard, we work very closely together.
Uh-huh.
The way the process works under the legislation, WAVA, Wrecked Abandoned Hazardous Vessels Act, it's kind of co-administered by Coast Guard and Transport Canada. And Coast Guard is the first point of contact.
Yeah.
So you always phone them,
Right.
and then they have some authorities under WAVA to look at hazards, assess hazards related to vessels.
Right.
So they do a hazard assessment, and if it's deemed to be a hazard, they have authorities to deal with it.
Okay.
Okay. So then, if it's not deemed to be a hazard, or everything is a hazard at some level, but there's a
So
certain
you're talking about a navigational hazard
no
or a
hazard.
pollution hazard?
A hazard can in the act under the Act of WAVA can be a very broad range. It could be community hazard, potential hazard to the environment. So if you look into legislation, it's identified in the legislation what a hazard is.
What act is that?
It's the Wrecked, Abandoned, and Hazardous Vessels Act.
Direct Abandoned
Yep.
Hazardous Vessels Act. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the authorities. That's what we're here. That's
And
what we're doing.
the first approach is the Coast Guard.
Always phone Coast Guard. There's a 1-800 number. It's
Yeah.
manned 24 hours, and they
What is it?
will check.
You know about that?
I don't know.
1-800 is the first one.
It is. I don't know it
You
offhand.
can Google it.
But,
Sure.
It's the easiest way, just go online. And look
Yeah,
it up.
I can get that information if you need it. But basically, if you've got
I've
a
done
number,
it
you've
already.
probably called the number.
I have done it.
It's not hidden. It's very public.
You go through a dispatcher first.
Yeah, so it
The
goes
dispatcher
into
decides
it-
whether it goes to the Coast Guard.
it goes-
or
it goes-
the DFO or the
yeah,
MOE.
so
right?
it goes into the regional operations center, right?
Yeah.
That's the number,
Okay.
and they monitor pollution, search and rescue, all that kind of stuff,
Okay,
right?
and if you take a file number, that
Yeah.
dispatcher will say to you, An officer, I'll send this to an officer.
Yep.
They will contact you if they need more information.
Yes.
Well, isn't there something wrong with that? Because if you're then depending on somebody at their whim to decide whether they're going to call back and let you know what's been happening, and for accountability's sake, shouldn't they say we will call you or you can?
Well, they don't necessarily need to call you, right? But they have the authorities to, depending on what information they have.
But if you want to find out,
want
them to call you.
So when you, just an example, when you phone the police and you say, hey, I see someone is committing a crime, the police doesn't call you back and say, oh, hey, here's this person, here's what I'm doing. Like, so once we are doing things.
Actually, I've done that and they do sometimes.
Okay, but
I like that.
In general, so once we're working on a file, you know, you ever hear this is an open investigation, and we're not investigating anything here, but like we have an open file on it, and you know, we're not allowed to necessarily share information.
Well, but he said that you are investigating this.
No, we're not investigating. Okay.
You're mistaken.
In the words, we are conducting an inspection.
Inspection.
Under our authorities, under
structure.
Right?
Inspection.
So, you know, this is just investigating. You're like collecting evidence because
What would it take for you actually to get involved in the removal of a vessel?
Oh, we remove lots.
In this
after conducting an inspection, well, we don't know any case, but
I'm just saying.
Transport Canada.
Theoretically, what would it take?
Transport Canada, as a program, we have removed 80 to 100 vessels per year.
Okay. There's a houseboat in the water now. It toppled over within the last week or two. It's in the water.
Yeah.
And that ramp leading down that is dangerous.
Yep.
Anybody could, and there's complete access to it. Anybody could go down there onto this platform down there,
Okay.
mess around in that vessel, and probably be seriously hurt. There's a couple of those there.
Okay.
Will you be investigating that as well?
Well, we're not going to be investigating. Today we are conducting an inspection.
Inspecting that.
We're collecting information to make a determination of what potential authorities we can do.
Okay.
Right? So we can only exercise authorities that have been given to us through legislation.
So
right?
it is possible through legislation that government will be involved in addressing this problem.
It could be potentially possible.
Good morning, how are you?
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's
You're
we're
Nikki?
here to collect that information, right? So
And your name again was?
Ryan.
Ryan
Breffel.
Revel,
I have a
and
card.
you're
I
with
can
the
give it.
Department of Transport.
You bet.
I have a card.
And you are the agency that
Yes, I stayed.
would normally
Come to visit, right?
address these concerns for abandoned vessels. If
We
the Coast Guard
we
did.
are one of the program that I manage. We're the ones responsible for administering the wrecked, abandoned, and hazardous waste
Okay, well,
assessment.
thank you very much. That's information that I know the general public will want to know more about. So planning seems to have a lot on its plate these days. There used to be a environment protection officer until that was, a designated person for that. Must be hard to manage all that stuff, huh? Now you get all the complaints and everything else.
What's going on?
And you get people like me annoying you all the time, right? Well, then I would like
I want to look to work at the
That would please you very much.
Well, this particular area, this is the first time we've been here in a little bit, but when we are out conducting inspections, we're always looking at vessels that Coast Guard has passed on to us after they've assessed them under their provisions under WAVA. And we come and we look at it under the Transport Canada authorities related to abandoned and dilapidated vessels.
I looked before it was sitting there. And that looks like a stove of some kind. That ramp there, there's complete access to that. Anybody could walk in here, walk down that ramp if they were curious, and go on there. And I don't think that's safe. Do you?
Just so you know, I'm not an authorized spokesperson for this team, so I won't be speaking to anything.
You're not an authorized person because I have talked to you before.
Yeah,
I told you about that.
Well, you'd be looking for a statement.
I'm not looking for a statement. I was just asking. The general public really has to press for any kind of information today, and that's a concern.
I'm with Arms.
You're
Mark Garrett.
okay. I'm Jack.
Oh, you're Jack.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fine.
Jack, how are you?
This is John.
Good. Hey.
Under the water now?
Yeah. Now they're completely submerged. It's just the water now. So not too much of the wind down here.
This is starting to gather some real attention here. The kayakers coming by.
That's the one that was down here. So there's a fiberglass one. Just because the water levels, I got photos. And then there's the one you could see when it was less murky that's right kind of along that log. Not to mention this one here, which was high and dry.
Yeah,
so
you
the
can,
water
yeah,
came
you
up.
can see it this way.
And then there's, I think, one submerged there. They saw the aerial view.
Straight over there.
Yeah. And then there's the other, the bluish one that's down
Yeah.
here on the corner. I'm not even sure if it's going to be completely.
So this is part of it, when it comes up,
Yeah, I
it's harder to see these things.
Yeah. There's supposedly 3 more up at the far end.
3 more.
2 on one side and 1 on the other.
How would you even find them?
Someone will get the guide to it.
So, what do you figure the sequence this time? So you're paddling, you get involved, you know, you're environmentally conscious, so you see this sort of thing. So you share that with Lawrence and say that you would like to do this, you'd like to contact some officials. Is that how that happened? Or was it a private citizen who got to?
I just started knocking on as many doors as I could. I would have done it regardless of this, you know, with arms involvement or not. But yeah.
Arms and other people's list there nearly 100 years old and then with salmon. You know, there's Jeff way back in 1994. And have you been noticing all these vessels? And how have you felt about them?
When you buy a boat,
Yeah.
you should also buy a bond that the government holds.
Uh-huh.
And if you get rid of the boat, sell it, the bond has to be picked up by purchaser too.
Uh-huh.
But in the event that both of those guys screw up and walk away from the vessel,
Yeah.
the government's got a pocket of money to go in and get a record in or do what
I've never heard that idea before, but it sure sounds like a sound one.
You build a building in the city,
Yeah.
the city wants you to post a bond for everything outside the footprint of the building in case you screw it up. Sidewalks, gutters, whatever.
Well, these vessels, they had supposed to have K numbers on them.
Yep.
But what I found out is that you can't track the owner from the K number because all the information isn't properly
lost.
included. There's 2 big problems there, right?
Yeah. Well, you guys are on the right trail. A bunch of pictures when they had all the propane bottles and paraphernalia there. And I guess she sent it to Tri-City News once or twice.
Yeah.
And then other people we saw starting to take pictures and more interest was building. But it always seems to go nowhere.
Yes, it does. It does. Or it goes to an office where they send it out to wherever they think it should go, and then you hope somebody's going to get back to you. But as I said, it's been 7 years since I've been reporting on vessels in here, and other people have too. And these people who live here have been complaining for decades, and nothing has been done. So hopefully today, something will.
Yeah, but the feds have got the water.
Yeah.
And
These are
Meadows
feds.
has got the beach.
Yeah, that's right. The province has got the beach. You're right. And the two do not meet.
Working together, trying to not unmuddy the water.
Right.
And let's see the issue. What's the best way to all work together so that we can have the maximum impact, right? Like if my authority is I'm only, and I'm not saying this is the case, right? But like sometimes we can only deal with a vessel, but we can't deal with this thing, this structure that is. But the province can deal. Well, if we're going to come in and do the vessel, let's try and loop the province in and let's coordinate and let's try and have a fulsome impact. So we do work really hard to try and collaborate with our enforcement partners.
Will you be the quarterback in this?
It probably won't be me.
But will
it's
it
going
be
to
DOT?
be it'll be my staff. We'll be getting the balls started, but we'll have to find out. I can't say yet. Right, we're very early in our having a look at this. We're always open to working together with our partners. So
I'm sure people would be pleased about that. That's just a private citizen who walks this dike. for his health. And he has been saddened every time he walks by this
Well,
park.
I know, just in the last several months, because it started to just lean and lean and lean.
Yeah,
This has
yeah.
only been a matter of probably 6 months. When
I
that's
don't
when
think it's been that long.
That's when well, since last fall, so I started bringing it to everybody's attention at that point, not to mention the other boats. I mean, these wooden boats almost seem they had some aesthetic value, except for when they're sitting in the water, you know, an old wooden boat on the shoreline. But now, because the water's come up so significantly, you know, and that's got an engine compartment, I'm sure, and you know,
Make it a fish and chip shop.
and the other one too.
How many boats would you figure are in here between the bridge
There's
and...
3 right here. There's one there that we know about. That's 4. There's one there, 5, and then there's apparently 3 more that somebody's told me historically. They know they're completely submerged. But I've talked to a diver, and they're going to put a team together, hopefully, and get in and see what they can identify. There's 2 outboard engines right along the shoreline that are submerged that I can see from my kayak as well. So, from what we can see, there's 3 here, 4, 5, 6.
6?
There's the one you can see from here.
And then the one...
there's the other wooden boat.
6
There's
you can
this wooden
see.
boat. And 2 here that we can't see right now.
So there is a... Ryan, there is another one on a tributary of the Alouette over there called Blaney Creek. Okay.
At Needs Road, yeah.
I have a file on it off Thieves Road that I took out 6 years ago. And I've watched that boat go from on land into water, and now only the top of it can be seen. It's a motor boat.
Okay.
Wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. But somehow it got in. Now it's not coming out unless somebody pulls it out.
Where's that one at? Sorry.
That's,
Sorry, I'll,
Blaney
It's just
Creek
a little bit east of here on Blaney Creek,
Okay.
off of Needs Road.
towards Swanee Set.
So we have access to the K number is a pleasure craft license, right?
Yeah.
So we do have access to check that.
They
And
say sometimes they change hands 5 times
Will
and
that-
they
Well,
never get registered. So.
That one of the challenges we face is as vessels get older, they have a less likelihood of having accurate information in that database. So identifying the current owner,
So whose responsibility is to make sure that the information is updated?
it is it's by law any vessel, or the way the regulation is any vessel that is has an engine over 10 horsepower is required to have a pleasure craft license.
Yeah.
And that is enforced by police of local jurisdiction.
Police?
Yep.
The police in
it's
Pitt
a,
Meadows.
it's a ticket. It's a ticketable offense. So someone can ask, can you please, if it's supposed to have a license, can you show me your license? Like your pleasure craft license, and if they cannot provide it,
So it's the
or it's not up to
responsibility of the
date,
local police to make sure that information is updated?
they are the enforcement one.
Who updates it? Who makes sure it's updated? That it's trade change to hands?
Transport Canada administers the licensing system, but they don't do the enforcement. That's up to the RC.
Well, if you sell a car, though, you
Yep.
know, you know of a new owner. Who the owner
it's
is,
the
it's
owner.
recorded.
It's the owner is responsible for making sure
And-
that
and
they're
the-
in compliance
and-
with the
and
law.
the motor vehicles branch would make sure that that
Well, that
information
gets,
is updated.
that gets done through the licensing process.
Right.
So they don't have a system kind of like that's managed by the province, and they can set their own rules. So in the federal system, it's
Okay.
yeah.
So obviously there's no system like that in the province because they can't identify the owner of this boat from its K number.
That's right. The province doesn't have access to that.
And,
It's
and-
the pleasure craft license is not a public system; it's private. Like it's so on the vessel registry. So there's 2 types of ways to register or license your vessel in Canada. You have the vessel registry, which is the official registry of vessels, and that is usually for commercial vessels or large vessels that have a mortgage. They are required to be registered. And that is, anyone can search it. So that's a public system. If you know the name of a vessel, so a vessel with a name, you can search that and it will tell you who the owner is.
it doesn't sound like me that that's a very efficient system for making sure that somebody doesn't buy a boat, you know,
So
and then leave it someplace.
just like any other kind of thing, the rule is when you buy a boat, if it's supposed to be licensed, you are supposed to license it, right?
Yeah.
So if an enforcement officer or the police says, hey, you're supposed to license it. Can you show me your license? If you can't do it, you're going to get a ticket, right?
So how would the police go out there and find out?
No, they can just ask anybody. Just like you know, if you get pulled over for speeding, they ask for a license and registration.
Well, the boat is in is a kilometer up the river.
Yeah.
How would the police get out there to investigate?
Well, they're not going to investigate a sunken vessel, but they can talk to anyone on a vessel and ask them to provide their
We're
license.
talking about sunken vessels.
Yeah.
Sunken and abandoned vessels.
Yeah.
I don't think it's reasonable to expect the police to look after tracking
No,
down.
they're not there to track down. They're the ones who are, if they are going to check to make sure who is, have you updated your license as you've done. Like, I don't have the authority to be like, oh, hey, can you show me your license on your boat? And if you don't have it, I'll write you a ticket. I know those powers haven't been given to me, right? So all I can do is, oh, here's the K number, here's the last license owner, and I can try and track down who the current owner is.
And you wouldn't
right?
be able to do it with this one because it's changed hands, obviously.
Potentially, yes.
And somebody's
Yeah.
abandoned it and
And
use
so-
that loophole to do that because
Well,
nobody's going
it's
to
not
follow
it's
them
not
up.
a loophole. It's an obligation of an owner, right? So you can't, you know, how much can the government force people to certainly do certain things?
Well, you know, I was a teacher. There
Yeah.
were rules in my classroom.
Yeah,
I enforced them myself.
yeah,
We have a system where we make rules
yeah.
and then just hope that they're going to be obeyed, but we don't have a system to make sure they're going to be obeyed.
Yeah, well, it comes down to a balance of enforcement and education and awareness, and that's a big part of it. They are revamping the old pleasure craft license system. Only had it used to be lifetime, right? You could do it once, you never had to do it again. Then it was reduced to 10 years, and they're just currently looking at new ways to do that, revamping the pleasure craft license system, and I think it's going to go down to about 5 years, a 5-year renewal period. So,
Okay, Ryan, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.